Good morning, everybody. School Resource Officer Andy Jondreau and Attendance Coordinator Stacia Cross are our very special guest today, Friday, October 6th, 2023. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching DrydenWire Live, presented by Americans for Prosperity Wisconsin. AFP Wisconsin works to reignite the American dream and break down government barriers that hold us back from our full potential. Learn more at americansforprosperity.org and join AFP to fight for more freedom for all Wisconsinites. Andy, Stacia, welcome back to the show. Stacia, good morning. Hey, thanks for setting this up.
Morning.
Yeah, it's been, you guys were on both, when was that, about a year ago, year and a half ago?
I think it's almost a year to the dot, pretty close.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so and last time we talked, it was a lot about truancy. I think that's going to be another topic today. But before we get into it, in case people didn't see that show that we did a year ago, let's just do a quick bio so people get to know you again. Stacia, we'll start with you. Tell us about you.
I'm Stacia Cross. I'm the attendance coordinator for the middle school and high school at the Rice Lake Area School District. This is my second school year.
Okay. How's it going so far? Is second year better than the first year?
What's that?
Is the second year better than the first year?
I mean, I guess we'll find out.
And Andy, for people who don't know you, which most people know you, but for those who still don't, that live under a rock.
There's some. I'm Andy Jondreau. I'm the school resource officer. Police school liaison officer. One of two for the Rice Lake Area School District and Rice Lake PD.
What do you mean one of two? I heard that there was another one now,
There is.
and I was told that person may have been joining us this morning, but wussed out. That's what my source told me.
I suppose. Hopefully, we weren't one of your sources.
Yeah.
No, we also have Daniel Hupert. It'll be his first year as a school resource officer. So this is my sixth year doing this. I have the Rice Lake High School and Hagen Elementary. He has the middle school, Hilltop Elementary, and Tainer Elementary.
So when did that person or that position get opened and added?
Just at the end of summer, pretty much. The interviews were done, I believe, it felt like 30 seconds before the school year started. But it was pretty close to, at the end of August, I think it was.
And what was the reason for that?
There was a lot of requests from the community to have a second officer in the buildings.
Really?
I'm kind of keeping my head in the clouds and saying, oh, it must have been because I'm doing such a great job. But that they wanted another one.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, it's taken a lot of stress off of me having to be in different buildings. Now I can do a little bit more with my contact with high schoolers and stuff like that.
Sure. And just out of curiosity, if people don't know, if it's a school, so you're an officer, but you're at the school, who pays for this? Is it the school or is it the police department?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
Since I spend 70% of my time at the school during the school year, I believe 70% of it is paid for by the school district, and then the other 30% is when I'm in the summer for the police department.
So you still got to go play cop too?
I get to. It's kind of fun every once in a while to remind kids that yes, I am still a police officer, but they find out pretty quick, and the word spreads. So it's not a huge secret.
Yeah. So Stacia, you had emailed, I don't know, it was about a month ago, somewhere in there, and asked, we should do another show. And I said, love it, great, let's come on. So last time we talked about truancy. So I'm assuming, since that's kind of the field for both of you, that's what we're talking about again. Is that true, or is there something else that you wanted to make sure we talked about?
Truancy, but also we wanted to kind of get into mental health too, because that affects truancy. It's a big part of truancy right now. And it's a big part of our community. It's starting to be talked about more, but there can always be more awareness for it.
Give an example on how mental health is playing a part in this.
A lot of when our students, they're truant, a lot of it has to do with mental health. There's a ton of reasons, but mental health is getting bigger and bigger, a bigger and bigger reason for truancy. So it's combating that and trying to figure out how we can help so it doesn't cripple their going to school.
Yeah. Andy, are you noticing that as well? Are
I,
you
I
on the
agree
same page of Stacia?
100%. We've kind of noticed that a lot of any behavior issues, or like Stacia said, truancy, and just kind of poor decisions in general. A lot of them of our frequent flyers it's a lot of mental health stuff. So they're kind of struggling with it. The waiting list for those kids to get the help that that we're hoping to get them or that they need is incredibly long, and it's kind of frustrating trying to keep them afloat during that period until they can start that. And even most people know when you start some sort of treatment, whether it's counseling or anything like that, it always seems to take a bit to get going and for them, to trust certain people. Um, it just, it plays a huge, huge part of it.
Well, I would assume mental health is always always has been a part of truancy. But just compared to, Andy, you said it was 6 years now, right?
Correct.
So 6 years ago, mental health versus today, mental health, and how it impacts truancy. It sounds like what Stacia was saying, that it's becoming more of a factor. So what has changed over the last 6 years? I mean, the answer is, well, mental health. We recognize that. But what has caused more of the mental health aspects, and why is that having such a bigger impact on truancy?
I'm kind of thinking that it's just we're addressing it now, so it's being noticed more. It's not something that people are ashamed of, and things like that. We're encouraging them. Yeah, I have mental health days. It's just days where you're just not there mentally. You're not going to be there to do for me. To do my job the way I should. And the same thing with the kids, and a lot of them, just because they're so young, they haven't quite developed different coping skills. So, days where, one of us would be like, all right, I need to focus on something else. They might not have that ability or that experience to fall back on. So it turns into behaviors or, to heck with it, I'm not going to school today, those kind of things.
We're what, 2 years removed, I think, from COVID in terms of its largest impacts, or the larger impact that it had on schools. Are you guys seeing, Stacia, I'll start with you on this. Are you seeing the effects of that still, or that is pretty much in the rear view mirror at this point? I don't really see the truancy issues or the mental health aspects that came from that. It's not really playing a role anymore, or is there still a lingering effect?
No, I think that it still plays a role. I think that changed the dynamics. People were secluded. So I think that still affects mental health and a lot of the anxiety of coming back and being around people. People were so afraid for the longest time, and now we're like, okay, there's no worries now. Please come back to the school. It doesn't work like that. It's not a button. You can't just turn off those feelings. So the best thing that we can do is try to support them and try to get them back in the school and get what they need. But like Andy said, it's a wait list for a lot of people. And we have a mental health coordinator who does awesome trying to get everything organized and get those students help. But we can't do anything about the waiting list. So it's really just trying to navigate what we can control.
Um, yeah, I just wrote that down, waitlist. I want to talk more about that. But first, good morning, Dirk and Renee and Shani. Oh, and it looks like Shani Anderson said hi, Stacia.
Hi,
You're there.
I
And
miss you.
yeah, and Matt Kirkpatrick, one of the best humans on the planet. Stacia, boy, no love for Andy in the
Miss you,
chat today.
Matt.
No love
That's
for
okay.
Andy.
If there's nothing negative coming my way, I'm down with it.
Wow. Like you and I, nothing. Stacia comes on and she gets all the love. You just start your own show, Stacia. This wait list, what are you talking about? Who's on a wait list? How do you get on a wait list? And waiting for whom?
So there's a wait list for CCS, which is voluntary. To get a social.
And Andy, thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Tanya.
To get a social worker, to get services through the county. There's wait lists for therapists, like huge wait lists for therapists, and we can kind of rotate people as much as we can. When I did leadership for Washburn County, when I was still at the county, a therapist came and talked to us and said that especially since COVID, there's not enough of them. He's like, I have a long waiting list. These people need help, and it's an awful feeling to turn people away because you know they're struggling. So I don't know what a good solution to that is, because you can't just push a button and get a bunch of therapists. I don't know what a remedy for that would be.
We had Darren Cox, a mental health professional here in Washburn and Rusk County, and actually it was yesterday morning, and he was talking about that. That there's a lot of need and demand for it, and there just isn't a lot of people going into it, or there's a lot of places for it. A lot of people, like you said, are kind of booked, and everything's, which it just seems like that's everything right now. We can't get enough cops. We can't get enough. I can't believe I'm saying these words out loud. Lawyers, or specifically people that want to be DAs or judges, or it's teachers. We need more of. Like, it seems like everything right now. Like, what are people doing? It's like nobody working anymore. We had all of these positions that are open. Let's go. So is there a fix to this, or are you at the mercy of theirs, or can the school do something? I'm not sure who that question would be for.
We're at the mercy of other services.
Okay.
Us as a school, we can only do so much, and we can refer them and get them in the right direction, which is what our mental health coordinator does. So we can get them to the right places, but we can't speed up that process.
Has there ever been a discussion about having an in-house mental health? I don't know what a mental health professional in-house. We now have 2 school liaison officers. Why don't we have especially for a school as large as Rice Lake, and the district is? Has there ever been any discussions about that you're aware of? Anyone?
Stacia, I'll let you answer.
I literally, I don't know who would. If any of you,
we do have one, and then we have ones that we outsource.
Okay, so when you have is there's already too much on that person's plate.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, now I'm just trying to piece this all together.
Yeah, we have people in-house that, that can do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the need is, the need is there so much that we outsource to others, and even those folks are inundated with people.
Okay.
So, it's good that the mental health aspect is being addressed, but in turn, it's putting a lot more demand on those that are treating those people.
Sure. And then what role, Andy, do you play in this? You're kind of that boots on the ground, as it were, in the schools, walking around, talking, with these kids, and you see this stuff. Now, we're talking about mental health professionals, and we do ask a lot from our officers nowadays. I don't think, though, we should be asking them to be mental health professionals. That's not fair to the mental health profession or to our officers, and certainly our school resource officers. But what role do you play in this?
Kind of like a Band-Aid, I suppose you could call it.
Yeah.
They'll come in with the smaller issues and things like that. Like any other staff member or teacher or counselor, you pretty much help them work through it, try and relate to them, give them the experiences that we've had, maybe to help them develop some of those skills like I was talking about earlier. But if it's, deep enough, then as law enforcement, I have a different approach. If they are legitimately threatening suicide, or, they're having thoughts about that, then I can, I have certain protocols that I have to go through in order to make, to start that process for them. And it speeds it up, but it's not exactly, a fix. It doesn't get them in to see the people that they need long-term any sooner than anything else.
And there's been a lot of things going on down there. Obviously, you guys know that every Tuesday, Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald and I do a weekly show, and a lot of that topic is driven based on things that are happening in Barron County. He sends out a lot of press releases. He's a very transparent sheriff, and he puts out a lot of information. And there's been a lot going on, including some young kids since the last time you guys were on, that like high school age kids. Has that impacted? Have you seen when that stuff happens? And I know there was I think even a few deaths. How does that? That has to change the dynamic of the school, and does that also linger? Is it still lasting? Because now we're not talking about, and I don't even know if that affects truancy. Stacia, you could speak to that. But just we're not talking about the kids that are coming from a troubled home, a single mom, but maybe, or a single dad, and the dad's also, I don't know, a drug addict or something, and this poor kid. I mean, these are the kids that are getting, A's and B's, but they lose a friend. How does that impact the whole system? Andy, we'll start with you.
Okay. It's it kind of changes the way we approach things. Like we do have the anniversary of a major incident on October 10th. So like kind of next week, we're almost preparing for kids to kind of start having some issues and some things that they haven't quite been able to deal with. There hasn't been a lot of closure with that case yet.
Yeah.
So I think it's making it difficult for a lot of kids to deal with it or know how to deal with it. And again, it kind of goes back to the lack of life experiences to be able to fall back on. You're like, okay, I can get through this. We're kind of expecting an increase in, behaviors. And like you said, out of kids that wouldn't normally have any issues, they have triggers and things that'll come up, and, it kind of takes them out of the game for a little bit. But, we expect that, we kind of see it coming, and we just kind of prepare ourselves with a little more empathy, a little more patience, and just being more human towards them as opposed to, our supervisory or administrative role.
Being aware certainly helps. I mean, that's a starting point, being aware of the situation. Stacia, looking into that next week, that October 10th. So next week, maybe a challenging week, and that may be an understatement for a number of kids down in the school district. How are you preparing for that?
Kind of like what Andy said, being human. Last year, it's not even just the students, it's the staff, the teachers too, that had a relationship with them. They were affected as well. And it was hard. It was everybody around. It was, you walked into the building and it's like you're washed with a wave of sadness. And it was devastating for everybody involved, our admin team, our teachers, our students. Some students had never experienced loss or death. And
yeah, you're right. That could be a first for a lot of kids.
Right. And you're that young and then you're losing multiple people, not just one. Just trying to navigate that. And it's hard. As an adult, it's hard. And we can't always have that conversation with them because that's not our story to tell. That is not our place to talk about those students because we are not those students' family. So there's limited things that we can say, and that's not to be unfeeling, and that's hard because they want to talk about it. But it's, like I said, it's not our story to tell. We just have to be there the best that we can and be understanding and compassionate.
And Andy, you've been there for 6 years. I remember when you were on last time, we had talked about that the benefit for you of starting, you're in elementary, middle, and high school. And then the longer you're doing the job, it kind of makes it a little easier because you've known them when they were in middle school and then they're in high school, but they still see you. So it's that familiarity.
And that's a huge benefit.
Sure. So my assumption here, I'm just assuming, that some of these students that are no longer with us, you also knew. You knew them. You saw them. How did that impact you?
You kind of put up some armor. You don't, it affects you. And, it's like, dang, that could have been my kid, things like that. Because, both of them were the same age as my oldest son. So just kind of seeing that, and it's like, man, it kind of brings it makes it more genuine. And instead of, seeing, hearing about it at another school, it's like, oh man, that sucks. I kind of know what you're dealing with. When it's, kids that you've seen growing up, it definitely affects you. And I know for sure, like kind of during that week, I was probably a little more crass than usual, just trying to, keep that armor up and not let it affect me, therefore affecting kids, and, trying to be more of a steadfast and someone that they can come to, not someone that they're going to be like, oh, if I go and talk to them, we're all going to turn into puddles. Just to kind of be a foundation for them start rebuilding.
You had, at the very beginning, you had mentioned repeat offenders in regards to truancy. Give me some names right now of teachers that are repeat offenders in truancy. Let's go. I need names. Oh, you guys don't focus on the teachers. Oh, okay, well, I just thought maybe I'd catch you and maybe you're like, oh, yeah, I'll tell you right now.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of them I'd like to, jokingly put up on
Yeah.
blast.
Yeah, no, just playing around. So that is another part of that. Oh, and Stacia, you had brought that up earlier. You had referenced teachers and what they're going through. Do you see, because we also don't want to put so much stuff on our officers as well to be mental health professionals, teachers sometimes now have to kind of play that role too. So where do you guys have conversations with the teachers and sit downs or a part of these meetings on suggestions? Do you guys talk about ideas on how to address things? Or is it really kind of, no, the teachers do their thing, we kind of do ours? Stacia, I'll start with you.
So usually we're dealing with the counselors. Sometimes we will talk with the teachers, but as far as when it gets to a student level and it gets to us, usually we're going through the counselors because they also have a huge part in the mental health area. So it's, by the time it gets to us, usually it's through a counselor versus the teacher.
Andy, anything you want to add to that?
It's, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think as a building, I think all of us as adults are just trying to be there for the kids and be supportive of them. And eventually, it does wear on us. I know we had a couple meetings last year after like the second or third incident, and it was really starting to take its toll on staff. And I think a lot of them kind of took it upon themselves almost to start getting together and talking amongst themselves, about some of their experiences and things like that. And from what my understanding is that it helped quite a bit. I know I vent to my wife quite a bit, and that really helps me. So that's my way of dealing with stuff, and the same back from her.
Stacia, so this is your second year now. So so you have like 1 year's worth of data, essentially, and whatever it is that you track, I'm sure a lot of things. Is this now, do you look at those and you go into this year and there are, you don't want to put numbers because these are human beings, but you can't put a human being in a spreadsheet. They are just kind of numbers. Are you looking for something, to be quote unquote better than last year? Are you kind of tracking that? And if so, have you kind of figured out, okay, so this year, let's focus a lot on X, Y, and Z, because if we do that, then we should see this number going down. Is there anything like that for you?
There is. So I do track, and I do watch the patterns. We have a weekly meeting, so we kind of look at everything. We look at the grades, the attendance, behavioral things. So we do track all that. So a lot of last year was weird though. We had a ton of absences due to all of the tragedies that hit our district. And honestly, I'm just praying that this year everybody is safe and happy. So I think last year was a very abnormal year. So I'm hoping that this year just kind of goes smoothly. But yes, we are, right now I'm looking for the ones that, they're not quite truant, and I'm trying to help them before they get to that level. Like, what does sick look? I did a quotation, you couldn't see it. What does sick look like? Are you actually physically sick, or is this mental? Are you, like, you have a stomach ache? Is it anxiety? What can we do to kind of work through that?
No, Andy, you and I, we didn't grow up that way. Right? We didn't have that stuff. When you were sick, usually, unless you were throwing up, your butt's in school. And that's just the way it was. Now, I'm not saying that's right. It's just that's the way that it was. And teachers didn't have a whole lot of talent for that stuff back then either. It's just fine. You need to go call your mom, go home, get out of here. So obviously that's different now. That's for the better, right? How you and I were raised, that's different. Now it's a lot more of your stomach ache. Like Stacia, you just got finished saying. Why? let's peel those layers back. Let's try to understand this, because if we can understand what's causing that stomach ache, and it could just literally be food, but maybe it is anxiety, then okay, now we have something to deal with. This is good, right?
It is, and that's one of those things that I'm super thankful for Stacia being with the district. Is she has the skills to dig into that a lot of times where they either like don't want to talk to me about it, or one way, shape, or form, she's able to address that, with those students, with the families, and start digging into that. And the rest of like the, I suppose I can call them the mental health staff in the district, that's, they're able to, like you just said, peel back those layers and get to the root of it. Now, one of the biggest parts of that is trust and cooperation with, whether it's the student or with parents. Sometimes they don't want, they don't want to admit that something's going on, or that, that they need help. So that's why we're here to try and encourage that and say, you know what, everybody has rough days. Everybody has things that they go through. What can we do to help? And it's the biggest part of that thing is the trust, trusting that if they start revealing something, about their family or whatever is going on, that mom and dad aren't going to get taken away, or that, something like this or that's going to happen. It's convincing them that ultimately we are there to help. It's not always, somebody's getting taken away.
And is there still that stigma? Annie, I'll go back to you on this, because we were just talking about how, kind of like how we grew up. I mean, it's just whatever. But also from that, the either bullying or maybe peer pressure more than anything. Again, when we were growing up, if somebody, I'm sure a lot of our friends or other people in our class or in our grade probably didn't have a great home life. Probably are going through a lot of the things that some of your repeat offenders, as it were, are going through. But nobody really addressed it. And because of that, maybe they weren't as popular. Maybe they didn't get invited to things all the time. And now looking back, it's like, holy cow, we really failed. Not purposely, like we just didn't really recognize it or didn't want to address it. I don't think it was really out of a want. We just didn't. That's not the way it was. So is the stigma kind of going away now, kind of like with law enforcement, that it's okay to say, I need to go and see someone? Because also, 20 years ago, a cop didn't do that. Now it's okay. We're starting to break through that barrier now, and it's okay. We're not going to make fun of you for it and go, oh, man, you had to go see a shrink. It's not as big a deal anymore. So do other students see the ones that are struggling right now and having mental health issues? Are they making fun of them like I used to see other kids do to kids when I was growing up? Or is it they have an understanding, hey, they're going through something?
I think something that's actually really, really surprised me, because of the way, that it was when I was in school, you get made fun of for being different any way, shape, or form.
100%.
Even with a lot of the kids that have, different disabilities, the patience and compassion that other students have for them that I've seen is absolutely outstanding. They're not, I mean, there's always going to be some that no matter what happens, they'll make fun of people.
There's always jerks.
Yeah, right. That's probably
it just
the best way to put it. There will always be jerks.
That's right.
But just the sheer volume of kids that, that I've had contact with, that, they're like, oh, that's just so-and-so. He just, he's different than I am, or she's different than I am, is absolutely heartwarming to see.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? You're right. People really are a lot more at a young age understanding, and it's not like they have to purposely go out of the way to go, well, they're different, and I recognize that they're different, so I'm going to make sure that I treat them. It's like they don't even think about it. It's like, yeah, they're different. Big deal. That is weird. Stacia, have you noticed the same thing?
I have. I think for some people, there's still a stigma, and I think that for some people, especially parents, I don't even think it's a pride thing. I think I want to be able to help my kid, and I can't, and then they have to get a professional in to help them. It's kind of like, am I doing something wrong as a parent? And they're not. We just want to help. We're not doing this to punish anybody. We want to help them. Just like in some situations, we have to get a social worker involved. There's still sometimes a negative attachment with social workers, but they're not. We're here to problem solve. We're here all to work with you. We want your kid happy, healthy, safe, and in school. It's not it's not a punishment. We're not trying to wave our finger at you and get you in trouble. We just want a conversation to see what we can do to help.
So which one of you deals with the parents more?
I think it depends on what it's about.
Okay, so here's what I was going to ask is, I think, Andy, you had said that sometimes still the kids don't want to necessarily, for various reasons, talk about certain things, bring certain things up. Are there parents that sometimes when you have to talk to them don't want to believe certain things or admit certain things, and you're like, yes, but it's okay? Do you get, I wouldn't say pushback, but more of a, no, my kid's fine, from parents? You had to have run into at least one of those situations at some point. And how do you do that? Because if you can't get the parents bought in, what chance does the kid have, right?
Yeah, there are definitely parents that, they're like, oh, my kid's fine. They're just, they're almost reverting back to the way they were raised.
Right. Yeah. Nut up, man. Let's go.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a way to put it for sure. But it's just taking the time to kind of explain to those parents, and a lot of the kids that are in the in the high school right now are pretty close to the same age I am. So being able to to kind of break down that barrier with the parents, be like, hey, it's different now than it was, when we were that age.
Yeah.
And, sometimes just being able to get through to them on that level can sometimes be a benefit.
And Stacia, do you have those conversations as well? And when you do that, like what Andy just said, is it usually received well?
It depends on the situation.
Sure.
So we can't force somebody to get help or want to get help or receive help. All we can do is try, and it goes easier, and it's just a sit down conversation. You're not doing anything wrong. We just want to help you and your family and your kid. So sometimes that's okay with them, and other times it's not. And that it's hard when it's not, because I'm a fixer. I want to help. I want to fix it. You can't force somebody to need or want that, though.
So outside of the mental health aspect of it, is there any other big issues that you are seeing as it relates to the kids in the school district or in Truancy specifically? Andy, have you seen, or what are the other big things that are happening or that you've noticed?
Oh, boy.
Or it doesn't even have to be like in order, like, well, number 2 would be, but is there something else,
right.
Or is this right now largely driven by the mental health part?
I mean, I think depending on what lens you take, you could almost attribute everything, back to some sort of mental health, whether it's past trauma with a kid, being in a multi-parent separate home. Sometimes one parent does one thing one way, another parent does, certain things another way. And, they'll start to choose. Kids aren't dumb. They'll go where they can, or they want to favor the places where they can do what they want, and try and avoid the places where, that the one parent's going to have more rules and things like that. And then that creates almost an animosity, between parents, because then the kids see that they, almost feel like they need to side with one parent or another. And this is just, some of the conversations that I've had with kids. It doesn't apply to everybody in that situation. But
yeah, I'm sorry.
Vaping is going to be another.
That's still a thing?
Oh my God.
Oh wow, that was. I'm living in. I don't get outside much, so. I didn't know that was. I didn't know that was still a thing. I mean, I know people still did, but I thought it was like a fad.
No, it's most definitely not, and especially when, the vapes aren't Marlboro or Camel cigarette flavor. They're Pink Passion Bliss, or it tastes.
Gross.
Yeah,
I'll take the Camel over that. Jeez. Sounds disgusting.
There's not a Kodiak flavored, vape,
Sure.
or, Copenhagen flavored vape. It's all this fruity stuff, and there is no way on earth that these companies can't say that they're not targeting kids. It's frustrating because we see it, we know it's happening, and it's just getting them to realize that what they're doing to themselves with this stuff. It's frustrating.
And now, is that, forgive my ignorance, but there's nicotine in those fruity ones? right? Or
There
no?
is, and that's what they're
Okay,
getting
and then
at.
there still is. I don't know what the age is. Uh,
21.
so it's 21. Oh my
Yep.
goodness! Right. So when you see that stuff, what are you able to do as a school or as a police school resource officer? What do you do?
It's
Do you talk to sit down and have a conversation with them? Because you're still a cop.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways we go about it. We do have something, if it's like a first time offender, we'll do this vape educate program that we've gone through. And she, see now here,
Yeah,
she's my
see,
friend.
exactly. No kidding. No one is giving you any love today, Andy. And one person, and by the way, the one that did said, good morning, Stacia, and Andy. Like you were an afterthought.
And you're even being completely ignored.
Oh, always. That's always. Every show.
Sometimes it's okay
Unless
to
they're
be
making
much.
fun of me.
But we do have, so there's a whole range of different things that I can do. It's just like any sort of interaction with the public. I don't have to automatically write a ticket. I don't have to do, a referral for anything.
Yeah, and you got to be careful about that stuff because then if they just see you as that, as
Right.
the disciplinarian thing, but that I think it gets a little wonky there. Like you got to be real careful on, am I the heavy today or am I their parent or am I their friend or I'm there to help or am I there to discipline? Am I there to reward good behaviors or punish bad? That's got to be challenging.
Some days it is. I mean, it's, a lot of the kids that I tell, with having the vape devices or the nicotine devices in the schools, there is a punishment that comes from the school that I don't administer. That's one of the
Okay.
caveats of my position is that I don't hand out any school discipline.
Good. That's smart. That's smart.
And that was written into it, into my, can't even think of the right word, my contract right at the beginning. So any of the school discipline stuff, detention, suspensions, any of that is all school administration. And then I deal with, we pretty much work together and decide, all right, has this kid pretty much earned a citation? Have they earned a juvenile referral? Are the parents going to be, supportive and enforce this? Are they going to start searching them? So it's kind of like being out on the road in general, its own little community. There's, some kids you have contact with, and a lot of them that, if they get a warning, say for a traffic stop, something that I say is, if we end up with having the same conversation again in the future, you're going to end up with paperwork.
Yeah.
So I like to give kids a kick of the cat.
That's a good idea.
Oh, just wait till you see Officer Daniel.
Yeah.
He's known as the pretty cop.
Oh, the pretty boy. Okay. Well,
I wouldn't say
he
he's
was
a
too much of a
pretty
wuss.
Yeah,
That
poster.
what?
He's a good dude, but he's far younger and he has hair, so he's.
I hate those people. Yeah, I can't stand those people. Tiffany says that my daughter's in 8th grade, and it's insane hearing her talk about how many kids in her grade have been caught vaping. Yeah, sorry, I guess I didn't even still know.
And those are just the ones that are getting caught. The ones that are doing it, it's like, oh my goodness, it's insane how many do it, and it's not just kids that are struggling with this or struggling with that. There's athletes that are doing it. There are the all walks of life do it, and it's frustrating because as soon as they get hooked on it, it's hard for them to stop.
Oh, I know. I've been a smoker for years, and not vaping. And yeah, no, I get it. The struggle is real. I've tried to quit pretty much after every cigarette. That's my last one. And it never really works. I've tried just about everything. And I just can't, I've been able to cut back and etc. But no, man, this stuff, it'll hook you for life. That's one of my biggest regrets in my life is that first time I did and thinking, it's no big deal. Yeah, it's terrible. And now you put it in like fruity things and you can't smell it, right? So people can do it inside.
Unless it's like right in your face. The Delta 8 and Delta 9 stuff we can still smell. It's not really secretive. It's nowhere near as strong as somebody smoking out of a bowl, but there is an odor, and they still do test when we get them.
Well, thank you, Dirk. Wow, Andy's a great guy. He was always the first one to wave at me when I'm shooting videos around town in the middle of a winter storm. I do miss seeing him on the streets. Well, thank you, Dirk. He's also our weatherman. Well, everybody knows Dirk Miller. He's an outstanding man. See, isn't that nice? That's a nice way. You know what? I think on that, we'll yeah. you can't beat that one.
Nope, you can't. I'm out. See ya.
Yeah. Okay. Go on a high note. It's like Seinfeld, right? George Costanza. That's it. I'm out. Go on a high
Right.
note. All right. So we're about up against our time right about now. So, Stacia, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
I guess I would just say that appreciate your teachers, appreciate your admin, everybody that tries to help you. If they are reaching out to you, we're trying to help. We're not trying to get mad at anybody or yell at anybody. We're here to help you. So,
Well, you can help by yell. I mean, I'm just saying you can yell at them, and that's kind of helping. No,
yeah, it could happen.
maybe not. Um, what is so next week for you, Stacia, and you guys have already talked about this. Going on next week with that situation, that anniversary, but looking past that, is there anything coming up at the school? Anything that you guys are looking at, or anything else going on for like kind of the rest of this semester?
I don't know for the rest of the semester. I just want to get through next week with my kids
Yeah,
being happy and okay.
yeah. Yeah, Andy, what about you? Anything else you want to make sure we brought up that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
No, just I just encourage parents to be nosy. Don't be afraid to ask questions about behaviors, or even why. If you notice a change in the way your child's behaving, ask the questions. Even if you don't get an answer, or they tell you to go pound sand, just the fact that you're acknowledging you notice a change in them can be a huge indicator for them to be like, oh, maybe something is different. Or kids never, I shouldn't say never, but seldom want to talk to their parents about different stuff. But if they at least know in the end that you're paying attention to them and you notice changes and you're concerned about it, that's probably the best you can do at some points.
How's cell phone use? Does that play into anything for either of you? Kids' cell phones. Those kids and their cell phones today. Or is that no? That's like school thing. They can't have them on, or only in between classes. Like that doesn't play a role in anything that you guys do.
Oh, it does.
In what way?
So it's the kind of like the nitpicky behavior. Like if kids have a beef with one another, it's not like when we were younger, you go home and you can stay away from it. You don't get messages. Now they're getting snaps, and I have kids come in frequently saying, so and so said this about me, so and so said that about me, or this and that. It's trying to get them to understand, there are certain things that you can and can't say to people, and it's kind of frustrating seeing that, because then they don't get a reprieve from, the drama sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that is how it was for us. And it was fine by the next day.
Yeah.
But I can see how that just kind of continues and it drags it on.
It does, and then a lot of the beefs that people have with one another outside of the building will get brought into the building and cause additional problems. And yeah, it's trying to navigate that. Sometimes it's like herding cats.
Yeah, I can imagine. Is this it for you, Andy? In terms of, I love doing what I'm doing, or is there a next? 10 years from now, can you see yourself still doing this? Is there a cap? Is there a limit? They don't want some 80-year-old dude walking around trying to talk to the kids. When you're pushing your little stroller or something. I mean, at some point you just can't do the job anymore, right? Because not because of physical, but I would think just because you may age out of it and you are no longer able to connect. At some point, you're clearly not there now. But have you thought about that? Like, okay, I think I can only really be effective for this for 10 more years or something like that. And are you just going to retire, or maybe go on doing something else?
Ultimately, I want to retire from this position in the schools. And I know our newest hire, she's interested in the school liaison spot. She actually asked me that, like, I think the third thing she said to me the other day when she come to do a ride along. She's like, hey, how long, pretty much how long are you going to be here? How long am I going to have to wait? And I'm like, well,
wow, fantastic. Jeez.
I said, that's like 10 to 12 years, ultimately. But I've kind of thought about what I would do afterwards. If it's anything to deal with cars or engines or anything, I'm down with it.
Really? Oh, somebody put something up about Caleb, excited for the car show on Main Street tonight. Oh, that's right. Fitzy was saying something about Main Street 4 to 7 tonight. Something going on in Main Street, right?
Yeah, there's a big thing. We have kind of like a cruise in down there, like a cars and coffee type thing from 3 to 7.
3 to 7.
That's what my thing is.
Okay.
It's the automotive part, but it's pretty much from, I'd say, from Highland Street all the way to probably Evans Street along Main. There'll be something.
3 to 7. Yeah, that's right. We have time for one quick question. Renee, how do you deal when you get burnout syndrome? How do you deal with that?
Me or Stacia?
Both. Well, we'll start with you, Stacia.
I don't know. The only time I felt quote unquote burnt out, and I don't know that that's even the right word, was when everything was happening last year. I was mentally exhausted from trying to keep it in, like Andy said, trying to be that rock, trying to be that person who didn't lose it in the school. So I don't know that I was necessarily burnt out, but I definitely took time for me on the weekends to reground myself. So
That's important, especially because you see this stuff with a lot of other people too. But they always say, like, a construction worker never is finished with his own house.
mm-hmm.
It's easy to address that with other people, but then doing it yourself, sometimes that's a little challenging. Andy, how about you?
I would echo that as, focusing back on yourself and having something that you do to relieve stress to kind of bring everything back into perspective. And, a lot of it for me is something, getting out, some sort of physical activity. My wife is tremendous, and it's been that way for my entire career. I don't know if I would have lasted as long into this career if I didn't have somebody, to vent to be a sounding board and to just listen.
Yeah, 100% agree. Guys, this was great. Thanks so much for coming back on. We should do this every year. First, mark it down. The first Friday in October every year.
Tradition.
Thank you, guys.
I'm good with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Special thank you to our guest today, School Resource Officer Andy Jondreau and Attendance Coordinator Stacia Cross for blocking out some time to come on for a chat with us for our now annual chat. Reminder, we're actually not going to be doing a Tuesday show with Barron County Sheriff Fitzgerald. He has something going on, and then, so I said, screw it, I'm just going to go do something else too. I'm going to take a mental health morning. See? Just because of the show, I'm just going to take the morning off. So I'll see everybody back here in 1 week from today. That will be our monthly chat with 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany. So until then, thank you for watching. Thank you, everyone, for participating and all your kind words. Most of those were towards Stacia, not Andy. We'll have to do better next year. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a blessed day.